Hello, everybody. So today I wanted to do a video because I have a few people that I've talked with recently. Um, I've had a few people that I've talked to recently that are kind of in this space of rebuilding, and they have a lot of debt that they're not necessarily proud of, and it just is overwhelming for them. And so I wanted to do this video with those people in mind, just as a form of encouragement to let you know that your financial journey is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so I wanted to offer some suggestions to help those of you out there who find yourself in this space where you're rebuilding and trying to get a plan together so that way you can move forward and start to see progress financially. And it may seem like you have a lot that you're trying to get through and move through, just to let you know that it is possible. And the sooner you get started with actually taking action and making changes to improve your situation, the sooner you'll start to see results. But it will take time. It will take time. So if you are new to me, my name is Janae. I am a financial consultant, and I help young professionals and leaders who want to learn more about how to invest. And I do that through my 90-day program called the $1 Million Roadmap. Is basically where I walk people through how they're spending their money, what their goals are, and how their money should be allocated based on the goals that they actually have, working with them to pay down their debt as quickly as possible, helping them to identify which investments support the goals that they have and how much they'll actually need to contribute to reach $1 million. And then lastly, we end on trying to help you find ways to earn additional income so you can support those savings goals if you're not getting it from your job. And so through these videos and through my posts, my goal is to help you develop the endurance that you need in order to make progress financially. So I hope that whatever you see from me, it inspires you, it empowers you, and it equips you to create a better life for yourself. So if you are, as you come on, say hi, or you can drop an emoji. It does take time. Like Rome was not built in a day. Rome was not built in a day. And so if you're feeling frustrated, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace, because it does take time. But once you get started and you actually start to be consistent with what you're doing, you'll realize that you'll get out sooner than you think, because we all know how time flies. Like literally, time flies. I was just, I forgot where I was, but I had came across or had seen someone that I knew from when they was just a baby and now they're a teenager. So time flies. And so give yourself some grace, offer yourself some grace. And here is some tips and suggestions to help you if you find yourself in this place where you're rebuilding and you're trying to move forward, but maybe you're feeling a little discouraged. So I hope this helps. The first thing is not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to. And so for my Bible readers, if you look at Romans 12:3, that's where this thought comes from. Because when it comes to finances, people can be very sensitive and they can also be very prideful. They can be very prideful, especially if you're a proud person and you're someone who has a great reputation and people think highly of you. And so it's hard to think of yourself in a negative way and associate yourself with where you may be financially. And so because you're used to people putting you up on a pedestal and thinking so highly of you, the fact that you're in a low place financially is hard for you to grasp and put your mind around. And so you literally dismiss your situation and just, move about life blindly, ignoring the situation that you're dealing with because of the fact that, I'm so and so, I don't connect with this. I don't relate to this. But the danger with that is if you continue to ignore the issue, it does not get better. In fact, it gets worse. And so if you find yourself in a low place financially, then you literally have to humble yourself. You literally have to humble yourself. And it's not anything to be embarrassed about, but it's just being honest about where you are. And especially when it comes to the body of Christ, because I was actually praying about that this morning. I'm like, God, why is there so many people in the church struggling with the spirit of poverty? And that's because it's hard to get people to be humble when it comes to their finances, because there's so much pride built up and so many barriers that have been built up mentally, where people are unable to accept anything that's less than, even if the reality is that that's where they are. And so I understand it's not comfortable, but if you're going to get out of debt in the hole that you dug financially because of bad decision making and poor choices, you're going to have to face the situation that you're in. Like, there's no way around it. And even my pastor was talking about on Sunday, when it comes to deliverance, you have to be willing to experience being in an uncomfortable place temporarily in order for you to get to the other side. There's literally no way around it. There's no way around it. And so the first thing you got to do, again, is not to think more highly of yourself than you ought to, but to humble yourself and be honest about where you are financially. Because no matter what your situation looks like, there is help for you. I mean, you can Google people's stories, and if that encourages you to see how, there were people that had 6 figures worth of debt, which can be a lot more than what you have, that can inspire you and encourage you that if they can do it, you can do it too. And so it's important that you be honest with yourself about where you are. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, because it's temporary. It's temporary. It's not, permanent. You're not meant to stay there, but you do have to acknowledge where you are, because you can't change what you're not willing to fix. You just cannot change what you're not willing to fix. The second thing is not to dwell on your issue. Not to dwell on your issue. Isaiah 43:18 says, "Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old." If you are rehearsing, no problem. If you are rehearsing what caused your situation, or even what your situation is, and you're dwelling on the fact that you have X amount of money, or X amount of dollars in debt, if you keep rehearsing that and that's all you think about, you'll continue to stay stuck in that place. And so once you figure out where you are financially, how much that is, so you know what you're responsible for and what you have to pay down, then you can start to switch gears and start to work on paying those things off and coming up with ways to earn additional money to pay those things off, or to negotiate how you can pay less than what you owe. And so if you continue to dwell on your issue, then that will just discourage you and keep you from moving forward. It'll discourage you and keep you from moving forward. So instead of thinking about the thing that you're struggling with, and that's just like if you're trying to improve any type of behavior or habit, you start by developing new and better habits. You don't start by dwelling on the bad habit that you have, because your mind will just be stuck on being in this one place. So, with having debt that you're trying to pay off, begin to focus on how can you begin to not rack up more debt. So coming up with ways that you can limit whatever causes you to swipe your credit cards, or whatever causes you to spend money that you know you should not be spending. Spending more time on that is more productive than thinking about how you got in this situation in the first place. And so that's what I want you to spend time thinking about, what allowed you or what caused you to get into this place, to begin with, and then what can you do differently so that way the behavior changes. And once the behavior changes, then you're no longer contributing or adding to your issue. And then the last thing is to disconnect how much money you have from your identity. I know for me, one of the things that I struggled with was associating my career with my, how I thought about myself. So when my career was going great and, I got my first position out of college working for a Fortune 500 organization, I felt really good about myself, because here I was, just graduated, making the amount of money that I wanted to make. And I was the only junior analyst on my team at the time, working with a bunch of senior level analysts. And I was killing it. Like, I was doing really well in my position and in my job. I was going above and beyond to present myself as a model employee. I learned as much as I could. I networked as much as I could. And it wasn't even trying to create myself into this person that I wasn't, but literally I got into the environment and the culture of being in corporate, and I sucked up and soaked up everything that I could. And I genuinely enjoyed it. And so the result of that is I felt better about myself. But then when I transitioned to a nonprofit and things were more slower pace, the people that I worked around didn't move as fast as I was used to. And so I didn't really have someone to keep me up on my toes and to keep me sharp the way I would have liked. It started to make me feel like I was wasting my time, that my value wasn't being seen and heard, which it wasn't. So that was actually true. But it started to make me feel like, because I'm in, a dry work environment, it started to make me feel dry. And dry in the sense where I used to be in this environment that was fast paced. I was keeping up with it. I found myself slowing down. I felt like I wasn't able to utilize my skills as much. I didn't feel appreciated with what I brought to the table. And nonprofits pay less. So mentally, it made me feel like I wasn't the same person that I used to be, which, wasn't true because I was that same person. It's just the environment that I was in didn't necessarily call for me to operate on the same level that I was operating at. And so, mentally, it messed me up a little bit. It honestly did. But when I began to experience both the highs and the lows financially, with making a significant difference in my salary, that's when I learned that, whether I have, a lot of money, whether I'm making a lot of money, or whether I'm making just enough, like, I can't associate who I am and how I feel about myself with my income, because then I'll end up doing this. And so what I had to learn how to do, I'm glad it's helpful. What I learned how to do is enjoy my life regardless, and enjoy my life at the level that I was at financially, because, me being who I am and thinking how I think, even though I made less money when I transitioned to a nonprofit, I was still able to do some of the things that I enjoyed. So I wasn't eating out. Like, I did not eat out at all. But I was the type of person where if I didn't eat out, I was still okay. But if I couldn't take a vacation, I was frustrated. So guess what? When I did have extra money, because I would always save, I have what I call a fun fund. So I save money for when I go away. So I knew whenever I needed to take a trip, the money was there. And so I didn't feel frustrated. So whatever that thing is that lights you up, whether it's traveling, whether it's eating out, you need to incorporate that into your life, because if you allow your situation financially to impact how you live your life, you'll become frustrated, you'll become stressed out, you'll take on a lot of unnecessary anxiety, pressure, and stress. And what that will do, it can borderline send you to a place of depression. And if it ends up damaging and hurting your health, that's a whole nother can of worms, And then to have medical bills to worry about too, that's just tacking on more things that contributes to the issue. So regardless to where you are now financially, you need to incorporate life into your life. You need to incorporate life into your life. Just because you need to scale back does not mean you need to stop living. Because if you do that, you will grow frustrated, you will become stressed out, and you could end up depressed. And so you need to learn how to enjoy life on the low. And you need to learn discipline, so that way, whatever that thing is that you need to have in your life in order to keep your sanity, you need to make sure that you're putting money aside so you can do that thing when you need to do it. So that way, you're able to still enjoy life and be responsible. You can do things in moderation until you get to a point financially where you can really live your best life. And so those are the suggestions that I have. If you find yourself again in a place where you're rebuilding and you're trying to pay off what you feel is a significant amount of debt, and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like, it is possible. It's not going to happen overnight. You do need to start yesterday, and you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent, and you need to make different decisions so you don't contribute to the issue, in addition to working on paying down the debt, which fixes the issue. So I hope that you found this helpful. Please share this if you did, because I would greatly appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that way you get alerts and notifications each time I post a new video. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to do a video to help answer whatever financial questions that you have. You can just put them in the comments down below. And if I can help you in any way, I have linked my website so that way you can stay connected to me. So that way I can support you in whatever way I can on your journey. So again, I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Bye-bye.